44 minutes after the hour, Americans, Hugh Hewitt. A confluence of events. Spider-Man is bursting all box office records, and Comic-Con is convening next week. The man who stands at the intersection of that, townhall.com's own John Hanlon. You can read all of John's movie reviews at johnhanlonreviews.com. He'll also be out at Comic-Con as a collector and connoisseur of comic books. John Hanlon, welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Now, tell us about Comic-Con for the people who have no idea what it's about.
Okay, Comic-Con is a huge comic book convention. It started in 1970 with about 300 people. And since then, it's grown exponentially. And now it covers comic books and all types of pop culture events and movies. And they're expecting to have about 130,000 people this year.
Where is it being held?
It is held in the Convention Center in San Diego.
130,000 people. I hope Mark Larson doesn't mess up the fireworks display for that one. Did you see what Larson did last on Wednesday night? Set off all the fireworks at once?
I did see that. I didn't know Mark Larson was responsible.
Oh, you didn't see? He tripped. He hit the button. He tripped and he hit the button. It's amazing. So 130,000 people. How do they fit that into the San Diego Convention Center?
I mean, it's going to be tough. This is my first year going, but I know it's a packed house, and they actually have outlets outside the convention center again, also, because they can't fit all those people into the convention center. But it's going to be a huge event. So
what is your objective in going, John? Are you going as a collector, as a townhall.com correspondent, as a movie reviewer? Why are you going?
I'm going through ScreenRant.com. ScreenRant.com is a huge movie website. It's one of the biggest non-corporate owned movie sites on the web, and they cover a lot of comic book movies and books, etc. And so we're taking a team out there, and we're going to cover all the events there. They've already started covering it, but a whole team of us is going to cover all the events as they occur.
Now, John Hanlon, have you by chance seen Spider-Man yet? I
have seen Spider-Man. I've actually seen it twice.
Okay, I saw it for the first time last night, and I will go back. How do you rate it against the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man?
I like it much better than the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, but I really love Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 2.
Okay, so you're sounding Obama-ish here, John Hanlon. You gotta pick one franchise or the other.
Okay, then I'm going for this one for the long run.
And why?
Well, I think Andrew Garfield is a much better Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire. I like Maguire, but Andrew Garfield has like the youth and vulnerability that Spider-Man has, especially in his high school days before he transforms. So long term, I think this is going to be a really great franchise, and I think it got a really great start with The Amazing Spider-Man.
It's an astonishing special effects movie. As I saw it, I said to myself, people 20 years ago wouldn't have believed this, much less 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Did you see it in 3D?
No, I don't like 3D. I'm not a 3D guy. So is that what your recommendation is?
I would, yeah. I'm usually not a 3D guy, but this one, the great special effects are even better in 3D. So there are a few movies that you should check out in 3D, and I think The Amazing Spider-Man is one of them.
Now, in the real world of comic books, I got to tell you, when I got a soda last night, I said, what do you think of the movie? To the kid behind the counter. He said, oh, it's so much more realistic with this backstory. Okay, so in the real Spider-Man comic book series, does the bad guy get locked up and not reveal Peter Parker's identity, or do they work around that in this movie somehow?
I think in this movie they wanted to keep it secret. I don't actually know what happens in the comic books, but I think, like at the end, they want to keep some of the stuff secret because they are planning The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which will be out in a couple of years.
Sure, but they send the bad guy to jail and they don't brainwash him with the Men in Black magic wand, so he can tell everyone in jail that it's Peter Parker, go and kill him. So that's a problem with the script. Now, my next issue is no Jonah Jameson.
I know. I think originally they were going to have him in there, but they didn't focus on Peter Parker's work as a photographer in the movie because these are his high school days. So I think eventually they'll put him into the story, but they didn't have...
They had the Daily Bugle, but they didn't have Jonah Jameson, and that was one of the great aspects of Tobey Maguire. And I don't really have an opinion one way or the other. They're both great Spider-Men, but this one was much more physical in terms of the... as a fellow I was talking to in the lobby afterwards said, the stand-up double in the costume was just so much more physical than either Tobey Maguire or the new kid. All right, now Comic-Con, how much of this is devoted to Spider-Man and the Avengers and the big movies? Is that what it's really about? Is it really a movie convention?
It's a mix. I think originally it just started with comic books, but now they have television shows like True Blood's going to be there, The Big Bang Theory, and Game of Thrones is going to be there. So it's a mix of comics, television, and movies. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on.
John Hanlon, do you have like a rundown of things that you already know you're going to? Because get people a sense of what it's like to, quote, cover Comic-Con.
Well, this is actually my first year, so I'm not sure. But I've talked to a bunch of people about it, and I've heard it's just a crazy event. I've seen the schedule. I don't have a rundown of what I'm going to do, but it's just one panel after another, one movie preview after another, and there are going to be panels throughout the convention center. So there's no way to cover everything, so that's why we're sending a team out there.
Was it Sundance for Geeks? Is that what it is? What is this? I mean, who goes to this?
I think it started out with a lot of geeks, but now it's so expansive and it covers so much pop culture stuff that if you're a fan of big movies or big television shows, even if you're not a fan of comic books, you still go because you get like the latest news and the latest updates on some of your favorite characters, comic books, movies, etc.
It sounds like a giant marketing venue.
I think that's what it's become. You know, you start out small, but now all the studios want to send their big movies there and their big stars there.
Well, it'll be interesting. So Game of Thrones is actually coming in, so we'll have to go out with Game of Thrones music. Are you a Game of Thrones fan as well, John Hanlon?
Yeah, definitely. I got into it earlier this year, so I watched the first season in one weekend, and then I jumped into season 2. So.
And are you reading the books as well for George R.R. Martin, who lives down there? Maybe George R.R. Martin will show up.
He's actually moderating the panel on Game of Thrones.
Oh, now, see, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I would, if you get a chance, tell him that the Salem Radio Network would like to interview him. Don't tell him Hugh Hewitt because he'll probably know I'm a right winger and he won't want to talk to you because he's a lefty. Did you know that? He's a real lefty.
I did hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like way to the planet left, but that's okay. I've listened to all the books. I've actually listened to them on tape. So you go up and break some ground for townhall.com.
I will try.
John Hanlon, thanks. I look forward. Are you going to post these where? Where are your reports going to be posted?
ScreenRant.com.
ScreenRant.com. Thank you much, John Hanlon. Comic-Con in San Diego. Good week to get out of town. Don't let Mark Larson near that place. Oh, my gosh. It'll be a disaster. I'll be right back on The Hugh Hewitt Show.